This week on the Virtual Skeptics, Bob got time. He discovers magic. Barb ain't afraid of no ghosts. Things just tune in. I'm your host, Ryan Gregory, and the music is too damn loud. Party.
It is kind of loud.
I know.
It
wow,
is.
Jeez.
I can never hear you.
I couldn't even hear Barb's crunching, which I really wanted.
Because I was covering my mic.
Yes, because I wanted the crunching. Hi, this is the Virtual Skeptics. If you're watching, thank you. Let me introduce these guys because they're more interesting than me. They are really more interesting than me. First up, we have Bob, CSI's conspiracy guy, web columnist, blogger for Skeptical Humanities, and Skepticality contributor, and has two eyes. Eve Siebert, editor and blogger at Skeptical Humanities, and contributor to Skepticality and Insight at skeptic.com. Barb Drescher, former psychology instructor, blogger at ICBS everywhere, and contributor to skeptical projects such as Insight at skeptic.com and The Odds Must Be Crazy. And finally, we have Tim Farley, blogger at SkepTools and Insight at skeptic.com, Skepticality contributor, creator of What's the Harm, and former JREF fellow, and oh my god, I'm going to breathe. Hi, guys.
Hey, Landon's breath's a little better.
Breathe,
According to my
breathe.
phone,
Yes.
Virtual Skeptics is live streaming right now on YouTube.
Oh. Well,
So
Wow!
let's just bag this. Let's go watch that.
yeah.
What are the odds?
Yeah.
Oh, jeez. Hold it. That doesn't work, does it? Okay. So thank you for watching. If you want to involve yourself in our shenanigans, then you can. You can.
Yay!
You can tweet with hashtag Virtual Skeptics. You can. Let me make sure the thing's running. You can do the Q&A app on Google Plus and ask us questions so that we can tag them for further viewers to get the snarky answers. And you can also comment on the YouTube channel, and like Pierre Cloutier has already, hi there, and you can participate in the show as well. First up, we do our little shenanigans. Oh, I said that already. But we got a few things we do. Tim is going to provide us with this week's trivia question.
Yeah, I had a scientific name a couple weeks ago. I thought I would do another scientific name.
Oh, I thought you were saying you had a scientific name, like Timius.
Timius, yeah.
Timius,
Farleonis.
Farleonis.
Yeah. No, this scientific name, whoops, I think I spelled it wrong on Twitter, but it's E. anthropus damsoni. E. anthropus damsoni is better known as what?
Wow, I have.
There's some general ideas.
Anthropus.
I'm missing an I on the Twitter if you're looking on Twitter, but.
Anthropus Damson is a Hollywood actor.
Ted Danson's brother.
The other thing we do is I have videos playing behind me. If you can figure them out, then I will be very happy. So please make me happy. I'm just saying. One of them should be easy. The other one should be kind of.
I think I know what one of them is.
Yes. One of them should be easy, and I'm kind of waving my finger around. And the other one, you might recognize. You might be too blotchy. I don't know. But if you can figure that one out, that's really impressive, and I think you're really cool if you figure that one out. Okay, so
Dark.
It is dark, and I think I've got them leaning back a little bit too far because they get kind of blurry.
Oh,
Anyway.
no, I know what it is.
Yeah. Y'all should know at least one. So we got a bunch of stories, and let's just dive right in. And I think Tim is up first. Tim, what you got?
Oh, just kind of a quickie, an update on something I talked about once before, way back in episode 115 in December 2014. I talked about an effort to fact-check climate change articles.
Oh, yeah.
It was called Climate Feedback, and
I remember this.
they were using the Hypothesis annotation engine, which I've also talked about on this show, which is basically sort of a browser plugin that allows you to put comments that are context-based on articles. So it'll say, hey, you see this sentence here? This is wrong. Or here's an extra piece of information on the sentence. And some websites, like I think the Washington Post has it actually sort of plugged in live on their website, so you don't even have to install it. But even if the website doesn't cooperate, you can install the browser plugin and see comments. So a bunch of climate scientists got interested in correcting the record of popular climate change articles and where they get the science wrong, and giving them grades. And I talked about it on that show. And basically, you would get all these little comments on the side, and they're linked right in.
Well, apparently there was no drought in California.
Yeah,
so
that's what.
Did they mark that up once that was revealed? Yeah.
Yeah. That's what Donald Trump says.
Yeah.
Maybe Barb can correct us on that.
Yeah, I don't think I need to. But or you could tell that to my son, who was just up at Big Bear and said the water level was pretty low. So.
Yeah. And Dr. Atlantis, yes, this is something similar to letting you write on the site. But Hypothesis is open source and nonprofit, and the idea is to create make this ubiquitous on the web, and a lot of academic and scientific people have gotten involved. So anyway, the climate feedback folks did an Indiegogo recently, and I tweeted about it a few times. I probably should have talked about it earlier, but I found out about it like right near the end of the time that it was running. It finished last Friday, and they made their goal. But the way Indiegogo works, you can still donate after the goal is done. So if you want to, I'll have a link in the show notes. But there's a lot of interest, and if you show my first slide, it'll show you a typical screen shot in case you don't remember that episode from 2014. But basically, the right-hand side of that picture is an overlay on the Wall Street Journal article, which is getting the climate science wrong. And as you can see, the annotations can be text. They can even include graphics. And in this case, these guys actually include a rating of the scientific credibility of the article.
I like that one.
In which case, in this case, it's terrible. And the yellow highlighted stuff is where the comments are linked. So as you scroll down, the second window on the right will scroll. So they did an Indiegogo because they basically want to scale up and have a more, they've done a bunch of articles and they want to, kind of make this a real thing. So they raised $30,000, and if you go to my next slide, there's another thing they're planning to do once they get more data in the system, is have what they call the scientific trust tracker, and basically give the site sort of overall ratings on how well they're doing on their climate change articles. So even if they've, a particular article hasn't been annotated, you can get an idea what the history of that particular outlet or website is in terms of the climate change information that they publish. So that's an ambitious thing. And according to them, there's another group doing the same thing for kind of biology type information, particularly like GMOs and organic versus non-organic farming and those sorts of things that get very controversial, and there's a lot of non-fact based information out there. They're starting up an effort to do the same thing. So this is kind of an interesting sort of angle. This whole annotation thing is seems to be ramping up and getting more and more interest in it. There are some interesting challenges to it because, like any communication medium, there's always the possibility for spam and abuse. Yeah. There's nothing to stop. These scientists come in and put their comments. There's nothing to stop, trolls from coming in and just adding hundreds of other comments in their place. So the people who build the platforms are thinking real hard right now about that sort of problem in terms of, how do you provide some form of moderation that isn't just, one person imposing their will on everyone else. Something that lets the good content percolate to the top and lets the bad content, kind of float down. So, any platform like this is going to have growing pains. So, but it's an interesting thing, and they raised $30,000. And if you want to contribute, you can, and hopefully keep them moving forward.
Interesting. I had a question. Now, I know that Facebook was going to have That credibility ranking system.
Yeah, Facebook did a couple of things. They haven't been very successful, quite
I was
frankly.
curious how this kind of would relate to that, or maybe so like the Google search rankings. If there's any, I don't know. I just
Yeah, this is
would be
more,
great to
the
fuel
specific.
that kind of
This is more about a specific facts. Okay, somebody says this article is nonsense, and I could go read a point-by-point takedown of the article, but the idea with annotation is, why not get the takedown right there on the article? So if you're looking at a sentence and you see it and you say, hey, this sentence, something seems wrong about this, you can literally click a button, and you might be able to get the answer of what's wrong with that sentence right there in your browser connected to it, rather than having to go off and read a big long blog post somewhere else.
And of course, this only matters to people who actually care if things are right.
Yeah, that's the thing. A lot of people argue that the folks who probably need these annotations best aren't going to bother loading the software to see them. But
there's an application for this in teaching though, where if like in my classes when I'm trying to teach students how the web works and how some things may not be reliable, this is the type of thing that you could have them. I have them install Web of Trust, because when they do research on alternative medicine, the first screen is of results is crammed with garbage, and if they have something to tip them off saying, hey, maybe you should be careful about this site or it's notoriously unreliable, this seems like it would serve a similar purpose.
Mm-hmm.
My daughter just did a school paper on the conspiracies related to the Kennedy assassination.
Oh, Lord.
And I had to
talk her out of...
Well, the thing is, I deliberately didn't tell her what to write about. I taught her how to research it and check her sources so that they're valid, and that there are people out there that say all kinds of things, but you have to know whether the sources are reliable. It was awesome. She's such a smart kid, and I'm bragging about her now. Sorry. So there you go. This is the kind
Don't
of thing
apologize
that
for bragging about your kid.
This would have been the kind of thing that would have really helped if the sites were all annotated, which would be great.
My kid figured out how to get into a gorilla cage. No.
Too soon.
Too soon.
Bob. By the way, Bob.
Oh shit.
Is this a good transition?
You went to a con. Did you harm any children or gorillas at the con over the weekend?
No, I did not. Eve and I went to Balticon this last weekend over the Memorial Day.
I got a Baltic cold.
You got a what?
A Baltic cold.
Baltic cold. Yes, they happen.
It was held at the...
Get your Baltic cold, hon.
It was... Okay, Baltimore, the parts of Baltimore that I saw were really cute. Yes. I'd never been to Baltimore for anything other than to go past it. And
really?
So, yeah, I've never...
Huh.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised myself.
Bet you thought the whole place looked like The Wire.
I've never seen The Wire.
Really? Wow.
Either that or Homicide.
There is somebody.
Never watched Homicide.
It's amazing how much The Wire has characterized people's opinion of Baltimore, because I used to teach classes in Baltimore from time to time, and my various skeptic friends that are in other countries and stuff, whenever I would mention Baltimore, they would immediately say, oh, be careful, don't get murdered. And it's like, okay, it's not quite as bad as it is on HBO, man.
And just so you know,
I'm sure parts of it are, because that is supposed to be based on real
I'm sure there are bad neighborhoods, like any American.
But it's not like
every city's got
it's
bad
not like
neighborhoods.
it's not like the entire city is what you see on The Wire.
Right, exactly.
Basically, that whole show basically takes place in one section of the city,
Yeah.
Just so you know, I'm going to be a Baltimore resident in July, so I'm.
Hooray.
Well, don't get murdered.
It's a great city. I love it. There's lots of fun stuff to do and lots of community events and things like that. I can sell you on the city if you want to, because I know it pretty well. As you were saying, Bob.
It was cute.
Get murdered?
Did not get murdered.
Did you see Andre Brower? Because he's around too somewhere.
Oh, does he live in Baltimore?
No, but no.
Visits?
Thomas Dolby does.
Huh.
Yes, he teaches at Johns Hopkins.
Damn.
What the hell does he
for him.
He's not here year round, but he's here when he does. He does a
He just blinds people.
He's got it's like an intense internship about music industry stuff, and yeah, it's pretty cool. And he does shows from time to time around Baltimore as well. So if you come down, I'll let you know when the shows are. Maybe you meet him and say hi, and say science, because he does that all the time.
Yeah.
Randomly in the middle of the city, you'll just pop up and say science, and then go away.
Weird.
I did not have an outfit. Though Nathan and Maribel brought brain slugs for everyone, really.
Including
Nice.
Brian.
Yes, I saw those on
didn't
Facebook.
Get my brain slug.
Yeah. And
In fact, several brain slugs had collapsed in Mariba's arms and were weeping.
Weeping.
That's very
for-
sad.
Bad brain slugs.
Were they starving?
Well, just Bob's.
Which track were you on in Baltimore and Balticon? Because
we were the critical. It was the skeptical thinking.
yeah, it was because
There were some issues. The
yeah.
people there were at all these cons were wonderful. Actually saw a lot of people from RavenCon.
Yep,
So there's a lot of overlap. I'm not really all that surprised.
Yeah, they're not far apart.
Yeah, and like Jim Beal, who was at RavenCon, was at this one. Let me see. But yeah, so the organization of this one, apparently, because George R. Martin was there this year. Did not see him.
Ignore everything else.
There were about I don't know. It's twice as big as it had been in previous years.
Yeah,
probably because
and
of
a new
his
venue
presence.
as well. So
And it was at a new venue, and the person who did the scheduling is perpetually drunk and blind drunk.
And a hamster with ADD.
Oh my God! Whoever did the scheduling was just didn't care.
Don't diss the volunteers, man.
Dude, this
It was a disaster.
This was nightmarish.
Okay.
Like, so to give you an example, there was a panel the second, was it Saturday night? And okay, so I wasn't exactly sure, where it was. I talked to the information people. They said it was in one room. The online guide said it was on another room. Hanging up on the door, it said Star Trek was there. Okay, well, whatever. We go in. The Star Trek people are there, and they're annoyed.
Person, really.
Well, yeah, it was just just the moderator really was there, and we talked about it, and we tried to get someone from the con to come down and sort this shit out.
Yeah.
And then after
it had some growing pains at this particular version, so.
And so we had to poll the audience, like, let's see who's going to present here, who's here for what, and they were all there for the skeptical thinking panel, and so we won. And then afterwards, when we left the room, taped up on the door was a sign that says that the skeptical thinking had been moved. It was unbelievably incompetent.
Oh no!
Yeah.
There were people who were scheduled at 3 things at once. Nothing was up on the site until the last minute. It was a legitimate disaster. You try to hold, because you want to go back to these things. You want to present at these things again, so you don't want to dig into them. But I swear to God, if I ever meet the person who did the scheduling, I'm going to turn them into fertilizer.
They dropped Bob from the program accidentally for a while. My name. Well, we weren't. Neither of us was down as a presenter. My name wasn't even next to the name of my talk.
It was incompetently done.
And then the programming people were never actually around.
Yeah. So, but the talks were fun. I did go to a talk
Did you meet
about.
Did you meet
No, didn't see him.
We saw many of him.
It's
but
true.
Not the real one.
People were cosplaying him.
Too many cosplaying ers.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. I think some of them look really good because I don't know what he looks like really.
Yeah, older guys of a certain girth with beards and hats and suspenders.
Pretty much what you need.
A cat,
yeah.
So I went to a talk on ketamine, which was it was not great.
What track was that in?
That was in the science track.
Really?
And it was basically this guy giving his
ketamine for depression.
Ketamine for depression, and he runs a clinic that is all about giving ketamine to people. He fucking loves ketamine so much. And he likes
made some reasonable points, but it sort of became an ad.
It seemed like an ad. The way he described how he got interested in it was like, well, one of my patients was said that the only thing that made them feel better was cold medicine. So I looked into it, and there was something related to ketamine in there. And then he looked at 2 small studies, and he's like, fuck it, I'm going to start a clinic to prescribe it off label.
This is before or after he tried it?
I don't know. So it was and he was describing like it's a miracle thing. So I talked to a psychiatrist yesterday who said, it's so transitory. It's like that drug you give for people who overdose on opium or heroin. It's not ready for prime time.
Right.
And this guy has. And then there was God, who was it? Mike Weinberg looked up the name of the guy and found that his partner was an ophthalmologist. No, was it ophthalmologist?
Yes.
Who turned to his true passion of psychiatry.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know about that one.
Okay.
So that was Scammy-palooza. The whole idea of a business built around off-label prescribing just.
So,
especially of a panacea.
Yeah.
Well, people do that. I mean, there's a lot of neurologists who give Botox for migraines, and that's off-label, but it also apparently is very effective.
It's not the off-label that is concerning. It's the obsession with this one specific thing as a cure-all.
So
it never happens.
He didn't present it as a panacea or a cure-all.
No.
He
just very enthusiastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. For specifically for types of depression, serious intractable depression that hasn't been helped by other methods.
Oh.
He was clear on that.
Yes. But he really liked ketamine a lot.
He does like it.
But saw Pamela Gay, said hi to her.
Yay! I like that.
Let me see.
What about the guy who
You're gonna say paleontologist guy? No.
Lyme disease and government conspiracy.
Oh, Jesus Christ!
Wow.
Yeah. So this was at a emerging disease talk, right?
Panel. Yeah.
And somebody asked about Lyme disease.
Uh-oh.
Well, okay, and this is the thing. I've gotten to the point where when I hear people talking about Lyme disease, I immediately hear them talking about chronic Lyme disease. But to be fair, I know, Eve, I know you're gonna crap yourself.
No.
If I but I hear them talking about chronic Lyme disease. And is anybody, investigating this? And the guy at was he an epidemiologist of some sort?
I don't remember exactly, or virologist, but the person didn't say, is anyone investigating this? They were just talking about vectors, particularly mosquitoes. So someone just asked very generally about Lyme disease. It was what the guy said that was interesting.
He said that it may have come from Plum Island.
Yeah, a government facility.
Oh,
right. That's the one out on the end of Long Island?
Yeah. There's all kinds of conspiracy
research facility.
Yeah. And he seemed
the
to
island
give
of
it
Dr. Moreau.
He seemed to give it credence, which was very strange, given how a lot of non-crazy shit was coming out of his mouth the rest of the time.
Yeah.
It was like a...
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
And someone in the audience pointed out that Itzy, the Iceman, apparently had Lyme disease. So, and he probably didn't get it from any facility in Plum Island, what with him having been dead and frozen for quite some time.
Yeah. That's why another reason I think they're talking about chronic Lyme. It's a recent thing that's...
I didn't realize there was a difference.
Yeah.
Usually when I hear people talk about Lyme disease, they talk about the fact that it never goes away, which I didn't know there was a Is there a...
There's a bacterial infection that clears up with antibiotics. There's also basic, delusional parasitosis or whatever.
Yeah.
That never goes away because you're not on your meds.
Yeah, I mean that's why. That's my understanding. I've never had Lyme disease, and I've known one person who claimed to have Lyme disease and was treated indefinitely.
Yeah, that's bullshit. Yeah, you can have, I believe, joint problems after Lyme disease. I think that may be true, but the type of thing where they keep you on antibiotics forever, that's just called medical incompetence. And there's a whole regime of imaginary Lyme disease, chronic Lyme is what they call it, where you have an entire subculture of Lyme literate doctors who are willing to tell you that you have something that doesn't exist, that isn't recognized, and keep you on long-term antibiotics because they're quacks.
Wow.
So yeah, and they're really nasty and protective about their diagnosis. It's like Morgellons. It's Morgellons but invisible.
But to be fair, no one mentioned chronic Lyme.
No one said chronic Lyme.
In the panel or in the audience.
It's true. It's true. They were talking about it though.
Yeah, I didn't realize there was a difference when I've heard about it talk before. It's probably it's one of those things I didn't know there was a difference. Every time I've heard it talked about before, they talk about something that doesn't go away. So
it is amazing the virulence that comes out of these communities around non-scientific disease diagnoses. They will get very, very angry and make death threats and. Any scientist who says, this doesn't exist or whatever, woe betide you.
But
and that's happened with chronic Lyme. It's happened with Morgellons.
But they have to be. I mean, I completely understand that mindset because you're talking about something that can't be proven or for which there's no evidence, which means that the individual can't show you.
Right.
Can't prove to you that they have something wrong with them, but they know that there's something wrong with them. And the defensiveness has to come from knowing that it's not defensible. And so it becomes something that they have to be very virulent about. I mean, they have to be aggressive about almost. So I get that. It's there are things like chronic fatigue and things like that and fibrositis or fibromyalgia, and these are things that most doctors will say, yes, there is something wrong, yet we still don't understand them well enough to be able to identify what it is that's wrong, or if it is a specific disease that we just don't know the cause of, or if it's actually something else. And maybe all these individuals, in each individual, it's something else, and maybe some of them don't have it at all. And
yeah, because reporting
it's hard.
Is difficult. Yeah.
Well, it's tough. I mean, when you have vague symptoms. It could be a matter of some people just simply not getting enough sleep, because sleep deprivation will do that to you.
Yeah.
It will affect your health. And there's autoimmune diseases that have vague names that can cause all kinds of fatigue and stuff like that. It's hard when you don't have very specific symptoms. It's hard for people to prove that they have something, and then when they think they do, and for some of these people they don't even have anything, but when they think they've identified it, can you imagine having to
it's so important. It's so important to define or to name your demon. It's really important part of getting better, and a lot of them feel like distressed until they get it, and that gives them a lot of comfort. I get that.
Well, it does, because they think that someday somebody's going to find a solution for them. If they can find a name for it, they can identify it, then maybe there's treatment for it.
And they can associate with a support group or some kind of community of people who are suffering the same thing. So there's a benefit to that as well, psychological benefit to that. So, yeah.
Yeah. Mortellans, though, that one's...
Yeah, but those people, they're crazy. Those people are
crazy. Although we know... Yeah, we all know that Morgellons is actually just a failed seed implantation for these space aliens that are going to...
It's a dysfunctional pod. It's a dysfunctional pod.
Pod, yes.
Anybody who's read Infected knows what I'm talking about. So, Scott's super book.
So, no, it was a good time. Boltagon was a lot of fun. I recommend...
Did you see,
yeah.
Did you see Dr. Holtz?
Yes.
Yeah.
He's the paleontologist that does the dinosaur.
We didn't see the dinosaur thing because Bob was on a panel. The one that was in the Star Trek.
Why do you say that like that's a bad thing, Bob?
No, he's actually one of my favorite presenters there, and he did a skeptic talk like last year, which was...
We saw his skeptic talk.
Yeah.
Hollow Earth.
Yeah.
Magic geography.
Geography.
And that was pretty cool. He's the real deal. I mean, like, CFI should do something with him.
Yeah,
he gave a great talk.
I think he's... Well, I mean, the SkepTrack at Balticon is kind of put on by the National Capillary Skeptics, which do a monthly talk in D.C. most months, where we have various speakers that either do something really cool, science-y or skeptic related, and I think he's done talks for us as well. So
I think he's doing something next month, isn't he?
I don't know the schedule offhand. I'll ask JD. JD's like
soonish. I think he's doing something there soonish. So, but yeah, he's the real deal. He gave a great talk.
So yeah, he's always a lot of fun and he knows his stuff big time. So, anything else stand out for the con for you? Did you go beyond the harbor for Baltimore, or did you stay in the harbor area?
Harbor area. We're down by the conferences.
Okay. Well, the next time you come down, I will show you some of the even more finer areas of Baltimore because there are some.
Take them to the docks.
Yes, I would take.
I was on a submarine.
I know you guys toured the Torsk, which I was kind of jealous because I've actually not toured the Torsk. And
apparently, it's haunted.
Yeah, I've heard it's haunted.
There's a nice segue.
There you go. That's true. So Barbara has got a story about ghosts, which that's the segue, in case no one figured it out yet. I'm so smooth with these things. So, there you go.
Yeah, well, okay, so I've been planning this cross-country trip, and it's really, really funny that, when you look for tours like, we got to take the Maid of the Mist at Niagara Falls, and, taking a tour of the Dells and stuff like that. And you look for these tours, and inevitably you find the ghost tours. And some of them were really interesting.
I like ghost tours.
I'm actually thinking we might do one of them, but most of them were kind of fun things, not really ghost tours, not really tours of ghost things. I really wanted to stop and do the ghost tour at the Trans-Allegheny Insane Asylum, but we're just not going to have time for that because they do like a whole tour of the facilities, and you do it from like 9 o'clock at night until 5 in the morning. You spend the whole night there. That would just be really super cool. Wow. But we don't have time to do that. However, while I was looking at tours, I discovered that Mackinac Island has this. I saw this on Week in Weird website, the Week in Weird website, and there was a whole article on this tour that you can do at Mackinac Island. And I'll read some of it to you. It says, tucked away on the western tip of Lake Huron sits an island steeped in mystery and lost in time. Known for its status as one of the most beautiful and historical tourist destinations in the state of Michigan, the island has a darker side unfamiliar to many of its visitors. When the sun sets... Yes, exactly.
Is this the place that Leonardo DiCaprio was at?
I don't know. I'll tell you about it in a second.
That's Shutter Island. Sorry.
Yes, that's Shutter Island. Sorry. When the sun sets and the moon casts a glow across the rocky beaches, the spirits of the dead. No. The spirits of the dead come crawling through the floorboards of the old hotels. Remind everyone of the island's bloody past. This is what got to me, was the bloody past. Now, if you've never heard of Mackinac Island is one of my favorite places. It's an absolutely beautiful little island that's like 3 miles in diameter. It's between the upper and lower peninsulas of Michigan, near the Mackinac Bridge that connects the two, and it's kind of sandwiched between the upper and lower peninsulas of Michigan and Canada, which comes down this way.
Is it the place that doesn't have cars?
It is a place that does not have cars. No personal vehicles are allowed. You can only get there. There's no bridge to it. You can only get there by ferry or by airplane, and it's a very small island that's mostly state park, although some people live there. And it's an absolutely beautiful place, and it has all these really super old hotels. One of them, probably the most famous, is called the Grand Hotel. If you've ever seen a little 1980 movie called Somewhere in Time,
yes,
with Christopher Reeve.
Yes, love that movie.
That is one of my favorite movies, yes. It was filmed
based on
there.
A cool book.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
It is a really good book called Bid Time Returns. Actually, now the book's called Somewhere in Time, so.
Yeah.
But it was originally called Bid Time Returns. Very, very good book by Richard Matheson.
So if you're ever time traveling, make sure you empty your pockets from all the pennies and stuff.
Yes, make sure you have no lint that you can identify as modern or
There you go.
So the Grand Hotel is where he goes, and yes, he drives up to it, but you can't actually drive up to it because there's no cars allowed. So the island is absolutely beautiful, and it is a popular place to go, even though it's kind of in the middle of nowhere. It's not like near anything else that's popular, and it's hard to get to. But it has these gorgeous hotels, and so this website, this article says that, and then it says now a team of paranormal.
Ow.
Whoa! What the hell is that?
It was a cat.
Cat.
Ghost.
It sounded like
Everybody drink. It's a pet sighting. Everybody drink.
Angry cat.
Okay. It says now a team of paranormal investigators comprised of television's most recognizable faces is heading to the haunted isle. Ooh. And you're invited along.
Oh.
I've got to wash my hair.
This intrigued me. I continued to read the article, however, and it said, welcome to Mackinac Island, where ghosts outnumber the living. Ask any paranormal investigator, and they'll tell you that the cause of a haunting can usually be traced back to something odd occurring in the area.
Sure.
Because they're not odd things that happen everywhere.
So a haunting occurs because something odd happens. Yeah. Okay. They talked about the fact that there's no cars there and blah, blah, blah. And they said, these quirks have culminated in a destination that feels truly frozen in time, so much so that the former residents often refuse to leave long after they've died. So the place is also they have ordinances. Most of the places were built in the late 1800s, the early 1900s. And
that was
so it has this
haunted time.
Yes, that's true.
Especially what?
Haunted time.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, anybody who died in that time.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
It's got that Victorian look to it. It's and they now have ordinances on the island that whenever you build anything, it has to adhere to Victorian style. Okay, so the article goes on and says when you take an island essentially amounts to a giant Native American burial ground, because there used to be Native Americans there, build a fort on it. There is a fort there that the British built back in during the Revolutionary War. Build a fort on it and kill a whole bunch of people there. Then turn it into a tourist destination. You get a setup for a great 80s horror film. Killed a bunch of people there. Okay, the article actually says that there were several bloody attempts to recapture the fort. See, the fort was built by the British, and then it became an American fort, and then the British took it over again. There was one battle there. One battle in 1814, during the War of 1812. And only 13 people were killed in that battle, and they were all Americans.
With that.
It started then, so...
Oh.
Yes. It lasted more than a year, so it had to be...
I'll be damned.
It's like the season of Doctor Who that started in 2005. They still call it Doctor Who 2005, even though it's been going on.
Remember the old song?
Oh, that's right, because it was a British thing, and they do the seasonal weird. Yeah.
It's 20... Yeah.
They froze time everywhere else, Bob. Everywhere except where they were fighting went on, and so it was 1412 or 1814 our time, and still 1812 their time. No, it was 13 people were killed on it. Keep in mind, it's a little tiny island. It's only 3 miles in diameter. It has a fort on it because it's in a good place on the water. I mean, it's between Lake Superior and Huron, and so one battle was there. 13 people were killed on it. Not a bunch of people were killed.
So there were 13 people killed.
13 people killed, all Americans in a battle.
That number is significant. 13
yes,
people.
Yes, is true. I'm sorry, I was wrong.
Are there 13
I'm all wrong, and
island?
they're all right. There are supposedly hundreds of ghosts.
What?
So
they don't
I
multiply
thought this
after
was.
death.
They talk about when you put a fort on a burial ground and blah blah blah, it's a setup for an 80s horror film. No, it's the style of the freaking island that makes it look so cool and ghost-like and ghosty and scary. So bring up the slides, because here's what some of the hotels on the island look like. Brian.
Slides. That was a hint.
Slides. Yeah.
No. That's okay. First off, this is
no.
Bob's slide.
No.
And then we're doing.
Oh yeah, we forgot Bob's slide.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the Island House Hotel. It was built in 1852. Look at the inside. It's very Victorian looking. It actually looks exactly like the interior of the Yellowstone Lake Hotel, which was, I think 1920. Go on to the next one.
It's got a gift shop.
It's yes, very scary. This is the Grand Hotel. This is the hotel I was talking about where they filmed the movie. This is probably the biggest one on the island. It's absolutely beautiful, but look at the style of it.
Building.
Doesn't it look like it's haunted? Go to the next one.
I keep expecting little girls with tricycles. Oh, there they are.
Oh,
yes,
there they are.
Exactly. This is Mission Point. It was built in the 1820s. The Grand Hotel was built in 1887. Go on to the next one. There's 4 others on there. The Lake View, the Harbor View, the Hotel Iroquois, the Windermere. Some of these are big hotels. Some of them are small hotels, but they all have that look to them. And this is just scratches the surface. So they all look like that. They all look like they should be haunted. Therefore, they must be haunted. So I wanted to see who TV's most recognizable faces were. Because they said it was. Oh. They said that on this tour you get to do this tour with TV's most recognizable faces. So I went to the website and I didn't recognize any of them. I recognized one of the. I recognized one of the names. I did not recognize his face. I wouldn't have known who he was if he didn't have his name underneath it. Can you go to the next slide, please? Mm-hmm. It's these people.
I saw this earlier.
Oh, yeah, them.
Okay, so I recognize a couple of the names actually.
Oh,
I know Chip Coffee. Yeah, I know
Yeah, but I didn't recognize his face. It said TV's most recognizable faces. It didn't say TV's most recognizable ghost hunters.
No, these people are idiots.
Yes, I know.
In general.
So
how come John Tenney's out of phase?
Yeah, it's promo pick.
He's
super
ghosty.
He's actually a ghost.
So
he hunts ghosts.
The
and
website
himself.
What I thought was really funny about it was the website actually puts celebrity in quotes, so it's like scare quotes.
Oh, so it's one of those tricks.
Yeah, go to the next slide because that's it says. Will I get to see each celebrity in attendance? It says.
Yes.
And they said, the fact is, most of our speakers are completely down to earth and don't even remotely consider themselves celebrities.
Oh, neither do
So they make this big deal out of the fact that you're going to get to meet celebrities. And I suppose in that culture, it's a pretty big deal. And it must be because, get this, it's freaking sold out. When I went to the website for the tour, I discovered it's not really a tour at all, but it has a little tour in it. But it's kind of a conference. It's this 3-day conference. So for $350 to $550, depending on whether you want the VIP package or not, where you get to have private time with 2 of those people.
Is it private time?
You get to have lunch with them, and no.
Private time?
That would have been funny. It said a private lunch, and it did not put private in scare quotes, unfortunately. Private lunch and then a private investigation with them. So you can spend 3 days in lectures on paranormal investigations and then go to parties and do a couple of investigations for yourself. So it sounds like a great conference for people who are into this thing. And it must be because it's in October and it's already sold out.
Wow.
There's a waiting list for it. I was just
Is it the
stunned.
last weekend in October? Because that usually is something important.
No, it's in the middle of October.
Yeah.
It's in the middle of October. Yeah, it's held at Mission Point, which was the one with the people on their bikes in the pictures.
Yeah.
I just thought it was really interesting. So, I would think that for anybody who believes in ghosts, they would go to Mackinac Island and just totally believe that there are ghosts everywhere because there's all those old
so out of touch with history that we see something old and we instantly go ghosts?
Yes.
Is it coming that
I think Victorian stuff?
Or Victorian in general, or castles.
Wait, there's a reason why the Haunted Mansion at Disney World is in Victorian style, and the uniforms are all Victorian style.
Everything scary is Victorian. Even those girls in The Shining looked like they came from that era. I mean,
so does that mean 100 years from now, a house that we consider modern would be the one that people would consider to be?
Yes, there will be like grungy people.
I don't think so. Actually, I think it's always going to be Victorian because you've got the Titanic and the Queen Mary, which everybody thinks is haunted. They do a tour at the Queen Mary in Long Beach too, and I've known about that for a long time. It's called Strange Escapes. Yeah, Strange Escapes.
Yeah. So I suppose as long as that image is portrayed in movies and TV and popular culture,
and, I think that there might be something to the idea that because it's the earliest period we have photographs from. Maybe there's something.
And they're all creepy photographs.
The age of
focus.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think there needs to be something to that. I mean, if you think about it, I was also thinking about it just flew out of my head. I had another point that was related to that.
Well, it's the age of spiritualism. There was a great boom in ghost stories, like M.R. James, Dickens, Wilkie Collins.
It was also early in the age of psychiatric treatments. Insane asylums were big back then. We used to take people to insane asylums, lock them up, and drill holes in their heads.
Yeah, and
so did you see that season?
Whenever someone sees a ghost in period clothing, which really doesn't mean anything because everything's period clothing, but it's always Victorian.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Did you guys watch
sometimes
American
it's
Horror
medieval,
Story?
but it's usually medieval that actually looks Victorian.
I've not watched that season yet. We watched Freak Show. We haven't watched the others yet.
Yeah. There's that whole American Horror Story that takes place in an insane asylum, and it's one of my favorites. So.
And it's got to be early 1900s, right?
Yeah, it's there's overlap in the different seasons as far as the timeline, but I mean some of them go further out in the future. But it's if you like creepy stuff and you're not watching that show, man.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I'm gonna have to go find out more about that place. I didn't know anything about it.
About Mackinac Island?
Yeah.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's one of my favorite places.
It's also, not to get off on too much of a tangent, but have you ever heard of some would describe it as a cult, but it was a weird new religious movement from around World War II called Moral Rearmament?
Wow.
They used to have...
Doesn't sound culty at all.
No,
they used to have their conferences there, and...
Really?
And they were the basis of, and the reason I learned about them was I saw this documentary about, remember this singing group that used to show up on 60s TV shows called Up With People?
Yes.
A big giant group of people, and they would always sing these super positive
I know people
songs.
who were on the tour. Yeah.
Well, it grew out of this moral rearmament group, and really the stuff that went on inside this organization in Up With People and in moral rearmament was very kind of culty, and I probably shouldn't mention it because it'd be a great trivia question, but actress or actor, I guess is the convention now, Glenn Close, her family was in that thing. So she basically admits in interviews that her family was in a cult when she was a kid.
Wow.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird thing. I mean, they had...
I'm looking at it now. I'm looking it up now.
Yeah, there's a whole Wikipedia article, and it doesn't really describe it. And you know how it's always hard to put the label cult on something, but there was some very kind of weirdness to the way those organizations behaved. I saw a documentary about Up With People, and it was a very weird organization.
I didn't know Up With People was built out of that. I knew it was a weird thing, but
yeah, it started as the singing group in Moral Rearmament, and then it became kind of its own thing.
Wow.
But yeah, they used to take over Mackinac Island each summer, I guess, in the 40s and 50s. And they used to own a lot of the land on Mackinac Island and then gave it to the college there.
Huh. Wow.
Well, it's a beautiful place. If you get a chance to visit, you should, because I love it. I haven't been there in a long time.
I will swing by
Michigan.
there after I go to the House on the Rock.
It is up between the upper and lower peninsulas.
Yep.
It's about 4 hours from Detroit. It's absolutely beautiful.
One day, Barb.
I mean, you can tour the island in one day, but you someday I'd like to go there and stay a few days. I've only done like a day. You rent bikes and
rent bikes, sing some songs in group, and next thing you know it,
rearm yourself,
and go ghost hunting. Okay. Thanks, Barbara. That was very interesting. I enjoyed that one quite a bit. Eve is next. And Eve is going to cast some spells of some kind.
The scientific kind.
Scientific spells?
Yeah, absolutely.
Alchemy?
Sure. Last week, The Guardian ran a story called Science or Magic? UK scientists test reality of Harry Potter spells. So, yeah. Anyway, the title of the article is, you're going to be shocked, a bit misleading. The two short articles they discuss are by University of Leicester undergraduates and are published in the peer-reviewed undergraduate Journal of Interdisciplinary Science topic. The first article, Gillyweed, Drowning with Gills, by Rowan Reynolds and Chris Ringrose, concerns an episode in the movie version of Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. As part of the Triwizard Tournament, Harry has to rescue Ron from the bottom of the Black Lake. To achieve the goal, Harry takes gillyweed, which allows him to grow gills. If you could bring up the first slide.
Yes. This is the best picture of him ever taken.
He has gills. The article considers...
In a movie that has the worst of his hair, so I'm saying.
Yeah.
Never mind.
The article considers whether the gills and breathing method shown in the film would in fact allow Harry to take in enough oxygen from the water to survive the ordeal. They do not consider whether it's plausible that some Mediterranean herb would cause someone to grow gills. Which is probably just as well.
Yeah, it is an interesting question, though. Yeah.
Well, the authors calculate the likely oxygen content and temperature of Black Lake and the amount of oxygen an average-sized 14-year-old boy would use while swimming. And they conclude Harry's gills must process 443 liters of water at 100% efficiency every minute while swimming in order to survive. Then they estimate the total area of Harry's gills.
Estimate
the total area of Harry's gills and consider whether the gills could process that amount of water. And they conclude that the gills are unfeasible because he would have to bring in water at a velocity that's almost twice that of normal airflow. They do note, however, that in the film, Harry swims with his mouth closed. But fish, the experts on gill use, do not. So they find that if Harry were to open his mouth to allow water into his throat and out through the gills, it may be plausible that he could breathe underwater. So it turns out the gills are plausible. Yeah. The gills are plausible, but the movie got it wrong by having him keep his mouth shut.
This is why they need a consultant for the.
This
absolutely.
Common Core, I just don't get it.
So, if you find yourself with gills in a body of water, for Poseidon's sake, open your mouth. Then this is helpful consumer advice here.
Yes, yes. Because I plan for this to happen to me at some point.
Extremely.
Yeah. Thanks. I like the advice.
Yeah. The second paper, revealing the magic of Skele-Gro, by Leah Ashley, Chris Ringrose again, and Robbie Rowe, considers how much the potion Skele-Gro increases the rate of bone regrowth. In the second book and film, Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, Harry's arm is broken during a Quidditch match. The incompetent wizard Gilderoy Lockhart attempts to repair the break, but instead removes all the bones in Harry's arm and hand. If you can bring up the slides up. So, based on the descriptions, the authors estimate that 30 bones are lost. Yeah. Now, they admit there's some difficulty in making an appropriate comparison because in the Muggle world, it's unusual for missing bones to completely regrow from scratch. Never mind 30 bones. Consequently, they were forced to use the rate of regrowth after a break. So their estimates are somewhat conservative. Harry apparently regrows the 30 bones within 24 hours. The authors describe the process that occurs as a broken bone is repaired. Now, the length of time needed for bone repair can vary based on various factors, of course, but they say that usually enough strength will be returned in 3 to 6 months, and they use 90 days as a comparison. So at a very conservative estimate, Skele-Gro regrows bone 90 times more quickly than the human body can do on its own. The authors then calculate the amount of calories required to regenerate the bones and concludes that Skelegro can supply an additional 133,050 kilocalories worth of energy. From that, they estimate the power output of Skelegro at 6,443 watts. This, they say, is almost 2.5 times greater than the maximum power output of Usain Bolt during his 100-meter world record. And they conclude that Skelegro, therefore, must contain unexplained magical properties
you think?
that allow it to hold such a vast amount of energy and indeed be able to apply it in a short period of time.
Okay.
Yes.
Because it's a magic school. So, okay, it all sounds perhaps a little bit silly. But what I think is actually interesting is the idea of the peer-reviewed undergraduate science journal. On the journal's website, the university says, whilst, and you can tell they're English because they say whilst. Whilst most undergraduate science programs provide students...
Use the accent.
No. I don't even know what a lesser accent really sounds like. Provide students with a project through which they obtain some experience of the process of scientific research. Few students get to know the mechanism by which research output reaches the public domain. Fewer still get to appreciate that the hard part of originality in science is to ask the right questions. Our students learn about scientific publishing and the peer review process by acting as authors, referees, and editors of the undergraduate journal. We encourage the students to be creative in their topic choice and approach, but there must be a core of accurate scientific theory that is communicated clearly. And it seems to me that's actually quite a useful project. And you know, doing their calculations, which does involve actual math and stuff, math and science, it is a reasonable way to do this exercise and get
a lot of fun.
Experience.
Yeah. Sure, it's fun.
Yeah, I like it when smart people deconstruct things from science fiction and fantasy and define and decide what their plausibility is based on real knowledge of the way the world works. So I think it's really cool in that respect, but also fun to make fun of.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
Good on those students. That's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was cool. We're just about at our normal ending time, which, you know, I never expect there's time for my stuff when we have everybody here, because you guys are fun.
But robots.
GoBots?
Get in there.
I have two really quick stories. One of which is this guy, and I didn't do the music, but that's cool.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so this guy is named Eric. He was built originally in, let's see here, it was 1928. And he opened the Society of Model Engineers annual exhibit, which is a regular thing in England. And as one of the first early robot, he would stand up and talk. I don't know how all this stuff works, but this was early when.
This is the first GIF.
It is the first GIF. This is a GIF actually that's playing, but this was UK's first robot. That's what they call it. And by today's standards, it's not really a robot. It's mainly just a thing that kind of just stands up and does stuff.
Puppet?
Like an animatronic guy from the Disney World or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But at the time, robots were kind of in pop culture and gaining some strength. There was a lot of fiction written about it. And a guy who works for the Science Museum in, let me get the right credit here, the Science Museum in England, and I don't have it in front of me. Ben Russell, who works for Science Museum at and I don't have that in front of me either. But there's a Kickstarter that to recreate this thing for the Science Museum and to keep have them go on tour as like a cool piece of UK history. Now I'm going to put a link in the show notes so you guys can go check out his little video about how this is part of UK history. I thought it was kind of cool. It was a neat little snapshot.
I like how David Lloyd George is watching on interestedly.
Yes, and if you look, I don't know if you can see it in this video, on the chest is RUR, which...
Oh, no kidding!
Yeah, which is reference to the first, it's reference to, let's see if I can say this correctly. Rossumuvii Universale Roboti, which is Rossum's Universal Robots, which is a 1920 play about autonomous workers that were possibly robots. And the
origin of the word robot.
Yeah, and the origin of the word robots.
Robot.
Robot. Yeah,
Robot.
I love that.
Robot.
Yeah. So it's cool. Go check it out. It's kind of a neat piece of history, and they're trying to recreate it. There's about 14 days left on the Kickstarter, and they've already earned like $26,000 pledges.
Is there a link?
It's probably gonna. I'm gonna put this link in the show notes. So it's actually I think it's already there, but we'll put it up.
It's been getting a lot of press, BBC and things. So.
Yeah.
And the other thing, really quick, there's been a lot of press about automating restaurants in light of some comments made by the guy, let me get his name right, fast food CEO of Carl's Jr., Andy Pudsder. He's if you go search for him online, you'll find all kinds of really obnoxious things this man says. One of the things he's talking about is replacing all of his workers with robots and automating the entire fast food business in light of the...
Because clearly he's a humanitarian.
Yeah, well, in light of the
Affordable Care Act, or
well, there's
or minimum wage efforts.
The minimum wage efforts. And also the story has this image with it, which I thought was the most awesome image ever, so I had to put that on the show. So, there's been a long time kind of slow growth of automating restaurants. In Japan, it's been done for a long time. There's a restaurant in Germany that the kitchen is kind of away from where you sit. You order on a computer screen, and the food comes out on a track. It's very similar to some of the stuff that's happening in Germany. There have been robots that have been created in the last couple of years to automatically assemble burgers and bring food out on little robots and stuff like that. This is not a new idea, but I suspect that it's probably going to happen in at least in some sense because of rising cost of humans to live, which is sad, but we'll see how that pans out, and I'm going to have a link to the articles on this. Pizza Hut just signed some kind of deal with the company that makes the robot Pepper, which I talked about on the show before. It's a kind of a humanoid robot with an iPad on its chest. They're going to use that in their Asian restaurants, which I'm not entirely sure how they're going to use it, but it's going to take orders or something like that, which is another one of these related kind of automating restaurant kind of things. So we're going to keep an eye on what developments are and see what happens, especially here in the States. I wouldn't be surprised. There's a restaurant in San Francisco that's completely automated as well, which has like little bins where food comes out in. You attach to an iPad or something.
Kind of stuff is gimmicky, but I don't know how well it lasts. We had the automated ordering places. I can't remember what it was called, but it was a Japanese chain that popped up here, and it did not do well at all.
I've seen at amusement parks where they have restaurants, and you order completely on a kiosk, and then you go up and get your food, and there's actually humans.
Kiosk ordering, that's the way this restaurant was. And kiosk ordering actually is, it does just fine, especially in fast food. There's going to be a lot more of that in the near future.
Fixed number of items, and it's always fixed the same way, or even if there's certain items.
That doesn't even take away from it doesn't even take jobs away because you end up needing more people. You know, because the amount of business and the efficiency and the
So we have to watch and see how this pans out. I think that automated food preparation may happen more. And like there was that robot I talked about 6 months ago that you can buy for your home that will supposedly cook for you. That didn't look too promising because you have to like prepare all the ingredients for the robot, which is like, what's the robot gonna do? Stir for me? But
that's all it does.
Yeah.
Stirs and pours into a skillet and stuff. Yeah.
Technology will get better, as it always does, and people will complain about it, like the people who are out of business playing piano for movies. But we'll have to keep track. So I'll put those links in the show notes. Everybody can go read on that if you want to, and that's the minute this week. What's next? We got to wrap up the show. We got to do the book time. We got to do announcements. We got to do funny stuff because we always do funny stuff. What's the announcements? Do you have any announcements this week? Anybody? Me?
I don't think so.
There's an announcement in the document.
I'm looking.
Skepticality.
I see your books. I'm going to read this. There's a new Skepticality featuring a segment by Bob. Also, Susan Gilbert's Guerrilla Skeptics. What's GSOW?
On Wikipedia. Guerrilla Skeptics on Wikipedia.
See, the OW is new to me. I've heard the Guerrilla Skeptics. Yep. She's got a new segment discussing Wikipedia page on Rose Mackenberg, and it's written by Tim. So go check out Skepticality. There's stuff from these guys. It's going to be cool.
I just got all of my research notes together for a Wikipedia page that I want to do.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, the guy's name's Arthur J. Cramp, and he's the one who founded the AMA's Bureau of Investigation. So he collected this huge amount of information at a time while the AMA was professionalizing medicine. And part of how they did it was by doing it in opposition to what was quackery. And this is the guy who built up the file on quackery. And it's amazing.
Huh.
Cool.
This sounds vaguely familiar to me.
Yeah.
He talked about it 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
There you go. Then, my brain works. It has memory and stuff.
Yeah.
There you go.
Your little robot brain.
Yes. Did anyone get the trivia question? Anyone?
Yes. Well, despite autocorrect making a complete mess of my scientific name and then me correcting it twice.
I think autocorrect did the schedule for Balticon.
Yeah. It was supposed to be E. Anthropus Dawsoni, not Damson, but autocorrect clobbered it twice. But anyway, Alex Murdoch figured it out. That was the proposed name for Piltdown Man.
Right. Yeah.
And Dawsoni was the clue because Charles Dawson was the guy who supposedly found it.
Yep.
So Piltdown Man.
Yay.
Good job, Alex.
Way to go. As far as the screens behind me, nobody tried really. Blake did get Deadpool, which is the one closest to me, is the Deadpool trailer. That everyone else should. I mean, if you didn't get that one, come on, guys. That's like a gimme. The other one,
Live Pool?
No. The other one is an Indian movie.
Oh, wait a minute. Hold on.
Yes.
Hold on. Let me bring that up again, thinking that it's. I have no idea.
Well, the translation of the title is Robot.
Oh.
Let me see if I can find. I don't remember the name. I had it looked up and I was ready to read it. And Robot Indian movie, and it's blah blah blah. It's Enthiran, Enthiran, and there are clips from this movie all over the internet. And I actually have watched a copy of it. It is an amazingly bizarre movie about this robot man. He splits in a million pieces and
yeah, I saw that.
Yes. You have to have seen clips from this movie because they're just so sensational. I don't understand the story. I don't care what's going on. The special effects are just it's a little cheesy, but it's just amazing. Go watch it. It's pretty cool.
I don't get, one, Indian plot devices, or two, what it takes to become a star in India.
I know, but it's...
You're not supposed to get it, Bob.
No.
It's not for you.
Oh, God, yeah.
Then apparently they're making a sequel, so watch out for that one, too.
This time it's robotier.
Yes, very much more robotier.
Robotier.
So there you go. Who's got books? Who wants to go first?
I got a book.
You got a book?
I'll go first.
Go, Bob. Go, Barbara.
I was born...
birthday.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. You go ahead, Bob.
I was born with water on the brain.
Okay,
so that's not exactly true. I was actually born with too much cerebral spinal fluid inside my skull, but cerebral spinal fluid is just the doctor's fancy way of saying brain grease. And brain grease works inside the lobes of, like car grease works inside an engine. It keeps things running smooth and fast. But, weirdo me, I was born with too much grease inside my skull, and it got all thick and muddy and disgusting, and it only mucked up the works. My thinking and breathing and living engine slowed down and flooded.
Okay, then.
Yikes. Ew.
Now the other Barb, as I intended. Go ahead.
It's okay. There's nothing evil or unnatural about a bubble or about the people who participate in one. Bubbles are an inevitable part of human nature and appear in almost every field of endeavor. When bubbles burst, it's painful, but the sources of the pain lie not so much in the burst as in the poor decisions made during the preceding boom. Resources are allocated in ways that didn't make sense because the bubble made them seem to make sense for a while. Consequences of that misallocation account for the pain.
I was trying desperately to come up with a rainbow shrimp reference because of the whole... Because they produce little lightning bubbles, the bubbles that, like, I don't know.
Uh-huh.
Eve, your turn.
Jewish financing of the Second Crusade was a fraught subject. The leaders of two of the great ecclesiastical centers of Western Europe, the Cistercian Abbey of Clairvaux and the Benedictine Abbey of Cluny, urged that the Crusades ought to be financed in part from Jewish funds. In 1146, Abbot Peter the Venerable of Cluny attacked Jewish profits from usury and demanded that they be confiscated and used for a crusade. Cluny was in debt to Jewish and Christian moneylenders at this time and had difficulty collecting its own income. When Henry of Valois, Bishop of Winchester, visited Cluny in 1149, he discovered that the golden cross he had given earlier had already been stripped of its covering.
Wah, wah, wah.
Faux pas.
Yeah, your turn, Tim.
Object, verb, subject. This is the reverse of the order in English, so care should be taken to avoid interpreting sentences backward. The subject is the person or thing doing the action described by the verb. The object is the recipient of the action. The importance of word order can be seen by comparing the following sentences. And I'll probably butcher this, but Puch lach yach. The officer sees the child. Yas lech puch. The child sees the officer.
I must guess before you say.
Yeah,
I know what that is.
Idea too.
Russian is such an ugly language.
Kapla.
And I'll give you the one phrase I know in that language.
Go. Go
ahead.
Okay.
You want me to say it?
No, let me read first, then we'll go back through. Okay. During one of many recent sleepless nights, Dinah had found herself worrying about transistors. Modern semiconductor technology had found a way to make them very small, so small that they could be destroyed by a single hit from a cosmic ray. This didn't much matter down on the ground because the stakes were lower and cosmic rays were mostly blocked by the atmosphere, but electronics that had to work in space were a different matter. The world's military-industrial complexes had put a lot of money and brainpower into making rad, hard electronics more resistant to cosmic ray strikes. Resulting chips and circuit boards were, by and large, clunkier and clunkier than sleek consumer electronics and earthbound customers had come to expect. A lot more expensive, too. And I'm going to stop there because it goes on and on about semiconductors. Who went first? Bob.
The Absolutely True Diary of a Part-Time Indian by Sherman Alexie, which is the most banned book currently.
Indian.
Oh, really?
Huh.
Yeah, weirdly. I don't know why, but yeah.
Huh.
Okay.
Interesting. Huh.
Barbara,
Mine is The Higher Education Bubble by Glenn Harlan Reynolds. Can you?
So those.
Gotta.
You almost
it's too
got
bright.
It. You got it.
The light.
You almost got it. There. Education.
There
you go.
Yay! There we go.
Yep.
I'll tilt.
Cool.
Did the trick.
Eve.
The Murder of William of Norwich: The Origins of the Blood Libel in Medieval Europe by E.M. Rose.
Okay. And I'm going to let Barb guess what Tim's book was.
It has something to do with Klingon.
That's right.
Am I right?
What's your phrase?
Japumpo Ejehukhlak Bay.
Oh, what is that?
My mother was a saint!
No, it's I've fallen and I can't get up. The most useful phrase in any language.
In any language, yes.
I had a friend teach it to me who was fluent in it.
It's the Klingon Dictionary. It's a first edition signed copy.
Wow.
By who?
By Mark Okren, the linguist who put the language together for Paramount Pictures.
And
An actual
we get
linguist.
sued now that you've shown that dictionary on our show?
Why?
Never mind. Maybe
no, they dropped that that whole lawsuit.
Oh, they did drop it.
Yeah, it got the Klingon part of the lawsuit got dropped, and then the whole thing got.
There was a really great legal brief written on behalf of the people who did.
I saw it.
It was amazing.
By Randazza?
Oh yeah, it was great.
Yeah. What we're talking about is there was a lawsuit between the studio and a fan-made movie, and one of the things the studio was claiming was that they copyrighted the language, and somebody filed a friend of the court brief basically arguing that you can't copyright a language even if you did pay this guy to make it up for you. It's a language.
And it was interspersed with all sorts of Klingon sayings.
Yeah, it was a funny brief to read because he peppered it with Klingon and footnoted all the Klingon phrases, and it was really well done. But it ended up being for naught because the judge actually threw the amicus brief out, and then I think the studio dropped the lawsuit eventually.
Wow. Okay. Well, just because nobody cares now. My book is.
Sorry.
No, that was more interesting. That was pretty interesting. I just started reading this for recommendation from a friend. Although I do like Neil Stephenson. This is I think it's pronounced Seven Eves.
Seven Eves.
Seven Eves.
Oh God.
It starts.
It's supposed to be really good.
Yeah, I'm really starting to get into it. I've only just started, but there's a lot of stuff on the ISS and there's a lot about NASA and space robots and stuff like that. So
space robots.
Yeah, it's like right up my alley. So I'm really getting into it. And that whole bit about space electronics is totally real. So yeah. They get some of the engineering correct, as far as I can tell so far. Is that everything? I guess that's everything. We got the announcements. We did our little book thing. We did all the other stuff. Trivia, yeah.
We did an introduction. That was good.
Yeah, that went well, and we did the video thing. We acted silly.
And talked about some stuff.
Yeah, and we waved. Hi.
Little magic, little ghost, little.
We didn't dance. Yeah. We need to dance.
We need to dance. Yeah. So the logo.
That's it.
I got the logo up, but I got to find my music thing because I have the book thing up. So. Da 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 da. Okay, there's the music. It's not as loud this time. I fixed the volume. You're welcome. Everybody dance. You guys dancing? Virtual Skeptics is in production of What's the Harm.net. Skeptics Reviews, myself, ICBS everywhere, and from News. The logo was designed by Sarah Mayhew at SarahMayhew.com, and our theme music is by Music and used with permission. No space robots were harmed in the production of this episode.
Phew. First time for everything.